Thank you both for being here. You may have heard a little bit about AI at Cannes. I don't know if it's been a topic of conversation, but I think we're going to take a different angle, hopefully, on this conversation. And I'm not playing games on my phone. I just have all my questions and notes. So first of all, before we get into the history lesson and kind of your perspectives, can we get a little bit of understanding, just a high level, what is Jacquard? Because that's a new brand, a new name, and kind of where does it come from, and your respective roles?
Yeah, sure thing. So hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Is this working? No, I'm not sure.
Flip the switch. There you go.
Now it's working. Okay. Yeah, hi, everybody. My name's Dan Head. I'm the CEO of Jacquard. So the first thing is, how do you say that word, I suppose? Well, if we ask our French friends here, they'll tell you how to say it properly. So Jacquard, although they would do a better job than me saying that. In England, we would probably say Jacquard, and in the States, you might say Jacquard. But the answer is actually, you say it however you like. Adidas, Adidas. And we'll talk about what it is, because the language context of that is important.
Yes.
We are in the brand messaging business, and we're here to solve a very specific challenge, which is that brands have a content problem. The more they do life cycle marketing, the more channels they use, the more campaigns they run, the more variants they test, the more journeys they execute, the more regional language they have to speak, they can't produce enough compelling, personalized content. They have a capacity problem. So the obvious train of thought is, well, then let's use AI. AI comes with a promise of automation, but AI is in many ways not delivering on that. So we want to talk about that. That's what we are solving for here at Jacquard. And the brief history lesson as to why we've given the company this name, if anyone would like to know. So Joseph Marie Jacquard in 1804 patented the Jacquard loom, which produced very beautiful, complex woven patterns at incredible speed. The machine was guided by a series of punch cards, so tens of thousands of punch cards with thousands of holes in each card, and it was a very early form of computer programming. In fact, it inspired some of the first computers that were driven by punch cards. So really, this is a story, as the story of AI is, it's a story of craft at scale. It's a story of amplifying the inputs of humans. It's a story of automation, and that's what we're here to solve with brand messaging.
I love it, and I know a lot of our friends at IBM are here. I believe historically it was the Jacquard loom that inspired some of the original design and thinking for IBM's computing powers. So I think it's very, very timely and nice. So, and then can you tell us a little bit just about your respective roles at Jacquard before we get into kind of the specifics? I'd love to understand kind of your respective roles.
Yeah, so I'm CEO. My background is manufacturing engineering, so I think in terms of production, in terms of process, in terms of output. But I've spent the last 13, 14 years in marketing technology as well, and working with brands on how technology can help solve this problem of scale and automation.
Yeah, my name's Toby. I'm the Chief Product Officer of Jacquard, and I started in electronic engineering and nanotechnology, and then went into marketing. And I think Jacquard is that perfect interface between high technology engineering and human psychology and marketing, and how you can apply artificial intelligence to that interface. And I think it's just a fascinating time to be able to take all these concepts and apply a lot of these novel technologies and apply that to the space.
Amazing. So I want to get into the specifics around what you do and kind of what you can power. As you know, we're all marketers, and we talk about, right, this idea of personalization at scale as this kind of holy grail that we've all been building towards, but maybe the promise has not yet been delivered upon. We're also all consumers, right? So I'll give my data to a company if there's a value exchange that's evident. I'll give my email to a company if I'm getting value out of it. But when we're all getting kind of the same generic messaging, it's like, what's the point, right? And as a consumer, if I'm engaged with you, if I'm in your system, right, there's an opportunity to foster that relationship in a meaningful, personalized way. My data is out there, my information's out there, but it's not being acted upon. So I guess from your perspective, right, if this is the problem that you aim to tackle, like, why has there been such a lack of innovation or progress in this space, and how are you going to push it forward?
Yeah, so that's a really, really big question with a multi-part answer. So
great. So my voice is sore, so please talk.
Well, I'll try and break it down, but I'll be as comprehensive as I can. So the first challenge is brands need to do life cycle marketing. So life cycle marketing to me means nurturing a relationship with somebody that would like to have a relationship with the brand. So rather than just you abandoned a car, would you like to buy it? Dear first name, you left blank in car. It's just these communications that we all get as consumers are not lifecycle marketing. They're interrupted and they're just trying to sell me stuff all the time. And if I'd had a relationship with you and I was only interested in talking to you when I wanted something, you would probably not categorize me in friendship category, right? So the first thing is lifecycle marketing is nurturing a relationship. And in marketing terms, that means why would somebody opt into push? We always know, like Apple and Google, they do everything they can to make it easier and easier and easier for us to opt out, right? As they should. If a brand hasn't earned the right to engage with you on a particular channel,
Right.
then they will facilitate the blocking of your ability to do that. So this nurturing of a relationship over many channels, explaining why you might opt into one channel, explaining why an engagement with the brand might be useful, it takes lots and lots and lots of delicate, nuanced communications over time. Compounding that is the fact that we've given so much of our data to brands that they can't activate. So both
It's like
of those,
data paralysis, right?
So both of those challenges are cemented by the same problem, which is that brands' copywriting teams just don't have the capacity to keep up with the size of that challenge. So again, this is where AI comes in now. You said about why we're seeing a lack of innovation. So the first part is all the talk that we see about AI, all the playing with ChatGPT that we do ourselves, or maybe we're using a wrapper technology, which is like a UI on a GPT or an Anthropic or something like that. That is a human interface with AI. So if I'm a good prompt engineer or a bad prompt engineer, it doesn't really matter. It's going to give me a load of stuff, and then I have to edit it. I have to review it. I have to mark the AI's homework. And every time I have to mark the AI's homework, there's no automation. And my interaction with AI is limited by my human capacity to deal with its output. But this is artificial intelligence. This is a vastly capable, powerful set of machines. So what we do at Jacquard is we're replacing the human interface with AI with a machine interface with AI. And our business then is overcoming the number one challenge, which is why brands don't use AI for automation, which is lack of trust. So our business is calibrating the process of AI output within parameters, within tolerances, so that the brand can trust the content to be compliant. And we do that by machinery, and we do that by a team of linguists who sit between the brand language, the regional language, and the AI. And once we can get an AI's output to be within tolerances and parameters for trust and performance, then we can get the benefit of automation.
And I was going to also add to that I also think we've kind of misdefined personalization in many ways. Like, if I receive an email that says "Hi Toby" as the first part of the subject line, from a marketer's perspective, that's personalization. But from my perspective, I just know that's automated. I know that that's a machine doing it because I have never written an email where I say "Hi first name" to someone else. For it to be personalized, it actually ironically has to not have the person's first name in it. When all our research, whenever you add a first name into the subject line, people instantly think, oh, it's a brand that's trying to sell me something. And so our idea of personalization is hi, first name, you left product name in basket, and it is totally templated. It's totally obvious what it's doing. It's totally obvious to me that that brand is just trying to sell me something. And as a result, it's not personalized. And so if you have 1 million customers, you need to create 1 million pieces of copy to be able to personalize, not one piece of copy that has some templated language in it. And so it is, by all accounts, a scale problem. And as Dan is just saying, why do cars have brakes, right? Cars have brakes not because they need to slow down, because they need to go fast. You're not going to drive 70 miles an hour if you don't have brakes in your car. And so if you can create an output of a machine which is highly controlled, it means you can do things at great scale. And great scale enables you to do so many more things. Great scale enables you to do 1 million messages to 1 million people. That's hyper-personalized, that takes into the personal context of the person receiving that message. It takes into the context of the products and services they're interested in. And it does it in full natural language rather than just doing templated bits in one line or 2 A/B tested lines with some merge tags in it. It's by definition automated and unpersonalized in a way that isn't human, and it's unnatural. So I guess what we're trying to solve is actually, ironically, using AI to make these brands far more human, and to create much more natural engagement through solving this through scale.
So I want to build on that for a second and maybe get into some specific examples if you can share, right? Because I think it's always, when you can share those examples. But we were talking yesterday, right? Let's say I'm a retailer, right? You have different customers in different markets at different ages around the country, and they speak differently, right? If I'm a retailer and I have one customer that's 60 and one customer that's 25, they speak differently. One's in, a neighborhood where it might rain this weekend. One's in a neighborhood where it's a beach town and it might be sunny, right? And you want to sell them different things or speak to them differently. Like, where are we on that journey where we are able to kind of add such a degree of nuance? I mean, not just personalization, but like really contextual nuance.
Well, it's like, if you define spam, like what's spam? Spam emails or push notifications or SMSs or any kind of marketing messages is unrelevant, unpersonalized content that I don't want to receive, that I don't know why they've sent it to me. And the antithesis of that is personalized content. And it's talking to me not only in the content of what they're saying, but how they're saying it. I might communicate very different. I might want a brand to communicate very differently in terms of the nuance of sentiment and urgency and formality and the length of the content to Dan. Dan might prefer a completely different way of talking, and being able to not only personalize content to what the person's interested in, but who that person is, where they are. Speaking Quebecois French versus French in Cannes is very different, and to a computer system, it's French, right? And there's a lot of nuance that you can, that typical rule-based deterministic systems aren't able to understand. And so we have a team of computational linguists. We have a system that's able to understand that nuance and understand that this person not only wants to receive this type of content, which is personalization in one element, but they want to receive it in this way, and they want to be spoken to in this way. And just like Dan's point about a friend talks to you in a way that you understand because they understand your personal context, and you understand their personal context. So the more we can understand our users and our customers from a data perspective, and use AI to piece that together in a way that is very natural, that becomes actually the antithesis of spam. That becomes relevant contextual messaging that people want to receive at the end of the day.
I think that's the point, right? When you think about life cycle marketing and loyalty as a kind of a discipline, right? Acquiring a new customer is incredibly expensive. But if you have that customer and you have a relationship with them, investing in it, right? Like, and if you have the ability to say, hey, stick with us, right? We understand you, it's going to be that much more impactful. So like, what are you seeing in terms of the impact of making these changes?
Yeah, so obviously, hopefully marketers now are not just thinking about individual campaigns, but thinking about acquisition, growth, engagement, retention. And, if someone downloads your app, are they still using it in 90 days? And if not, they're probably not getting value from it, that kind of thing. So again, that fits into lifecycle marketing. So our kind of view of positive outcomes can be broadly thought of into two buckets. Now, we would all like to say, if you use AI on a particular campaign, conversions will go up 20-30%. We'd all love that. But it's not about performance all the time. And we shouldn't disrespect human copywriters that are probably quite good at doing their job. If we want a conversion to go up, like offer free Taylor Swift tickets and then go, only kidding. You'll get loads of response to that, right? But it's going to damage the brand. So back to the Jacquard loom. So the Jacquard loom and any industrial revolution of automation has not been about doing things way better than humans. The Jacquard loom wasn't about weaving complex, beautiful patterns better than humans. It was about doing it at much greater scale for lower cost. So the first thing that we need to look at here is, we're doing things that humans could never do. So if we said, like Toby said, if you've got an audience of 1 million people, you've got the PII of 1 million people, some are Gen Alpha, Z's, Boomers, whatever, all of their different preferences. We need to be coming up with millions of different variations of messages that are appropriate for them. Humans can't even produce that. And one of the common conversations I have with brands is, how many people have got your app and perhaps their iOS preferred language is not English, and you still talk to them in English. I mean, that's not personalization. So the first thing we do is even be able to produce the output. Right? So and that's something that humans and brands can't do at all right now. The second thing is, and can we make the campaigns that you run better? I mean, can we do more campaigns? Can we enable lifecycle marketing that you're not running now? And the wonderful thing then about machines is that because machines can operate or optimize, as we all know and can, to such a high degree, it's statistically inevitable that eventually they will outperform humans as well. So you get the benefit of production output at scale, and you get the benefit of that conversion increase.
And to add to that is all these AI companies at the moment, they're all trying to take a part of your workflow and use AI to replace it, right? Like how much of what I can do today can AI go do? You know, how much, if I've got, my workflow is 0 to 100%, how can I give 25% of my workflow to AI? Can I give 50% of my workflow to AI? I actually think that is where AI starts to replace human creativity. How much of what I do today can I give to a machine? When actually it's the opposite. It's how much can I take what I do today and amplify and multiply that? Because today I can only go from 100% to 0% if it takes part of my workflow. What about taking 100% of what you're doing and multiplying that by 10,000, by 20,000, by 50,000? Like there's an infinite scale that way, and there's 100 to 0 that way. And just taking parts of your workflow and saying, write this for me, or rewrite this, or do this, or put this in my brand tone of voice, or whatever it might be, is fine. But actually, the human creativity piece is the spark. We think about AI as the fuel that then turns that into a massive amount of automation at scale. So you can have these amazing Super Bowl campaigns, which are great ideas, which we're still going to need humans for, but actually the infrastructure around that and how you communicate with customers through emails and push notifications and SMS or on the website, all of that requires huge amounts of personalized content in many different languages, and to be able to A/B test that, and to be able to, all of that is thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of copy. And it's not going to be possible to do if you're just saying, take 20% of my workflow and do that, because then you've only got a 20% gain. We're thinking about 20,000% gain. We're thinking about take what you're doing today and multiply it, not just divide what you're doing. And I think that's a different way of approaching the problem. And ultimately, the results that you get from that is potentially infinite. There's, the sky's the limit rather than the ground. And I think
one of the analogies that we often think about is like turning sand is a raw material. We think of large language models as raw materials. Sand is a raw material, and you can play with sand with your hands, and you can put it in a plastic castle-shaped box to give it form if you want. But if you want to turn it into glass, you need tooling to heat it to 2,000 degrees, right? And if you think about that in terms of large language models, there's lots of talk. Well, should we use ChatGPT? Should we use Claude? Should we use like a small proprietary model? Whatever. It's really just talking about different types of sand. And maybe this is a better type of sand, or not a better type of sand, but you still need to heat it up if you want to turn it into glass. So this whole conversation about AI is so that you can get a machine scale benefit from it. That's what, we could go on and on and on about automation examples, robots welding cars on factory floors, And so this conversation about AI taking jobs, there's been a lot of that obviously up and down the street here all week. But this amplification, the need for an amplification of human input is what we're really talking about. And there's a role that needs to be played with a human direct interaction with an AI, a human interface, particularly to perhaps nurture the creative development. But there comes a point where we just need high quality trusted production, and that's where the machine interface with AI comes in.
So first of all, I love that you knew the questions that I was going to ask, and you just answered them without me asking. So first of all, I don't mean that sarcastically. I appreciate that. I think it is interesting with any emerging technology or any of these kind of hype cycle, buzz, there's going to be an equal amount of excitement as there is fear, right? And, especially as you mentioned, with AI, it's very divisive. Apple suffered, they came out with that ad, the Crush ad, it triggered a lot of creative people, right? So, the framing as this is not meant to replace creativity, but to augment creativity, I think is a big point of differentiation. And so I would ask at, maybe more of a higher level, I think when we're programming our AI events, there's certainly a lot of brands and people that are doing interesting things, but there's a lot of people in the community who are still in learning mode and about where and how to implement AI. They're afraid of potential backlash. I think, I was reading something recently where and I saw, I can't think of what it was, I apologize, where a brand posted some really creative artwork on Instagram and the comments exploded. How dare you use AI? But it wasn't. It was actually human-generated art that people just assumed was AI. So, do you have advice for brands who are thinking, and anybody in our industry who wants to start that journey but is unsure of how to get started?
Yeah, so it's kind of, in some ways, it's that AI is a solution looking for a problem, but AI is such a huge subject. It's like computing. So I think that perhaps the wrong way to do it is to say, right, AI is now a thing. Let's go and hire a bunch of PhDs, throw several $1 billion at OpenAI, and then figure out what we can do. I think that's probably not the right way around. I think it's possible to think, where do we have challenges of scale? And that might be in the legal team, that might be in the creative team, that might be in the execution team, or whatever. And then let's break that down into the output that we seek. Where are we trying to get to? That's the first step. And then the second step, I think I just encourage everybody, like if my career in technology has taught me anything, it's to probably don't believe the hype and actually start to understand how it works. Yeah. And I'm certainly not as technical as this guy, but I think everybody in marketing, we've all got it's a responsibility for us to know enough about technology and architecture to be dangerous, because we need to be able to tell the difference between product marketing and product, between between what is the necessary machinery to get the benefit, versus just dealing with raw material when there isn't.
Sure.
And I was going to add to that. One thing I would say is just in a safe space in terms of using it. Use something like ChatGPT to try and achieve a particular output, or an Anthropic Claude, or whatever it might be, and learn its limitations. At the end of the day, it's very nice to think that you can say, write me 5 push notifications for my brand, and this is my brand, and it can come up with something, but it has no concept of what's compelling and what's on performance. It has no it has bias, it has hallucinations, and use it to understand the limitations, and then you can know what it's actually able to be used for, and those challenges are exactly what we're solving for. It's being able to solve for bias, solve for hallucinations, solve for brand control, solve for doing things that doesn't get scale. And so AI is such a nebulous term, it's such a broad term, but get into it and understand those limitations, and then you'll start to see the value in the different AI technologies that are out there, because all of them are trying to solve one thing or another, and we're trying to solve ultimately the scale problem. And if you solve the scale problem, it solves 10 problems down the line.
I love that. It reminds me, early in my career, I was a digital strategist on the agency side, and I didn't code, but you had to know what could be done. If you were going to make recommendations to clients or come up with strategies and plans, you had to know what was possible and what wasn't, right? So to your point, I think everybody has to go through a learning process here to know, where do we want to apply this?
The media loves to talk about that, how AI is going to solve either all the problems or completely destroy the earth. And as a result, no one has a real grasp on, one, what is AI, whether it's the application of neural networks or machine learning or a large language model, or none of the above, or all of the above, or actually what it's able to do, and what are the limitations of it, because of this hype cycle of talking about how potentially amazing or how potentially dangerous it could be. And so I think using it and understanding those limitations are going to give you an understanding of actually what's valuable out there, because what seeks to overcome those limitations.
Absolutely. It was, at our CES event, we had Mark Cuban, and he was speaking about AI, and I thought I had this really clever idea. I was going to talk to him backstage, and I said, Mark, do you think that there's going to be backlash, not just from a consumer perspective, but we're going to see a cottage industry of anti-AI agencies? Hey, we don't use AI, right? We're 100% human generated. And he goes, I get what you're saying, but absolutely not, because in a year, 2 years, whenever it is, saying we don't use AI is going to be like saying we don't use the internet or we don't use computers, right? It's going to be so fundamental that it's just a matter of how and when and where you're using it.
One thing just to find out on that, I think fear always comes from a lack of understanding. Sure. At the end of the day, for any new technology, you're going to get some level of Ludditism of people not wanting to embrace the technology because they don't understand or it isn't clear the dangers of such a technology. But as people understand more, and they understand the technology, and that technology becomes more clear of its value and its limitations, the fear goes away, and people have a very clear value proposition of what it can provide. And so we're in this kind of clouded area of AI is scary because we don't quite understand it, but we will understand it. And as soon as we do, that fear goes away and people have a very clear view.
Yeah, I mean, again, as consumers, we know how many general irrelevant communications we receive from brands. We give so much data to brands, and yet we get general irrelevant communications. So what this machine power does is it enables very, very specific, relevant communications, and then you get resonance. We're getting messages about things we are interested in when we're interested in receiving them with language that's appropriate to us. You know, so that's not being done at all now, and that is now possible with the right architecture. So I think that this is going to, I think really interesting byproduct of this is going to, for brands, is going to be how does this shape and evolve the brand Bible? You know, so any one particular brand will have a brand style, tone, voice, stylistics, identity, all that kind of thing. But how people talk about any particular brand on TikTok might not be how the brand talks about itself.
Right.
How a brand, how a tennis racket manufacturer talks about its products to boomers is not the same as Gen Zs. And so we're going to start getting incredible insights from individuals about their opinion of the brand, how they like to be talked to by the brand, which is going to help inform and evolve the brand Bible as well. So again, it's this two-way understanding, this two-way relationship that the brand can finally have with the individual, because at last now there's a vehicle for producing communications and receiving communications at scale.
I love it. I think we're going to have to end on that note. We've all heard this promise, for a while now of reaching this point, and it feels like we're very close. So I've been getting the signal from my team that we're out of time. So let's give these guys a big round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
I know I learned a lot.
Thanks, Dave.
It's awesome.